Scott Cawthon's son, otherwise known as Braden Cawthon. Apparently he wrote a book, and it got published through Scholastic. Yeah, we're not AFKing this one. This one's coming straight from the label. Rubbing shoulders with the big boys, are we? And normally I wouldn't care too much if not for two things. One, I've spent the last 9 months of my life reviewing Daddy Scott's books, or rather the books he co-wrote, and I've had some, things to say about them. So I'm curious to see whether inducing head trauma is a family tradition for the Cawthons. Two, I couldn't help but notice that Anim Dude appeared in the FNAF subreddit again, not only asking us to help spread the word about his son's book, but also to reveal that the reason this book got published in the first place is because Scholastic read it as a courtesy to him and liked it enough to put it in print. That's nice. Good on you, bro. I mean, it's not like all of us authors have a direct familial pipeline to one of the biggest publishing companies in the world, plus a bankable last name to ensure that you can rake in as many readers as possible by mere association. But I digress. Real talk though, writing books is extremely difficult, no matter who you are. And anyone who's ever published knows that names and connections are huge assets to have. And we writers should not judge one another based on those grounds alone. I can judge the book itself, though. This is Sirens by Scott Cawthon. This is Sirens by Braden Cawthon. How is it? Joel, a college student visiting home, wakes up one day to find that the world around him has been mysteriously ravaged, and it seems to be connected to disembodied sirens that blare in the night, driving all those who listen to them into suicidal frenzies. As Joel meets up with a group of survivors, making friends and skirting around enemies, he attempts to reconnect with his missing mother and sister, and to discover the source of the sirens. But he might just find that he gets exactly what he wants. The first thing I notice about this book is that it gets right into the action. Things start to go south after like 6 pages. And unfortunately, those 6 pages are just kind of wasted on setup, I guess. We don't get an idea of who Joel is or what he's like, just that he's a college student and he's home. Riveting. And spoiler alert, it takes a long time to get to know him and his dynamics, but we'll get to that later. And the same applies for pretty much everyone else. This is not a character-driven story. The story itself is the story, and the characters are just along for the ride. We don't get much of an idea of background or defining traits for anyone. We know who the protagonists are, we know who the antagonists are, and that's that. Joel is mostly just a dude. Emily, the fellow survivor he tags along with, is mostly just a girl. And Matthias, the shady old man who leads the colony of survivors, is mostly just a shady old man who leads a colony of survivors. Characters themselves are also stories, and just as they interact with the narrative, they also serve as tools for the reader to interact with the narrative. Why do we want Joel to succeed, other than the fact that we know he's a protagonist? Why do we scrutinize Matthias, other than the fact that we know he's the antagonist? Let's walk with them. Let's really get to know them, how they think and feel, what happened in their lives to make them the people that they are. The other thing I noticed is the overall writing style. It was very reminiscent of the FNAF novel trilogy, and that's not really a good thing. The writing is briskly paced, it gets to the point, it's not very colorful or creatively structured, there's very little use of linguistic devices. It's pretty standard writing. It's almost like it's telling the reader about an experience that happened rather than attempting to immerse the reader into the experience itself. One of the reasons I encourage my fellow writers to read more is to get a sense of how language can be played with, how structure can be tweaked to get across things like emotions, pacing, sensory information, all that good stuff. It's one of those know the rules so you can bend them kind of things, and this is a book that follows the rules to a T, often to its own detriment. From what I understand, this is Braden's first book, and I don't know how much he's written before this, but it definitely reads like someone's first book. And let's be real, I can't critique too harshly here. We writers all started somewhere, and we only improve with age, especially when we start so young by comparison. I've been largely critical so far, so let's talk about the best part of the book, and that's the final 20% or so. Good lord. Skip here to avoid spoilers. Joel gets fully exposed to the sirens and starts seeing his friends and family in the reflections of glass, and we learn that not only do victims hallucinate their loved ones and kill themselves from the sirens, but their bodies physically join them in this sort of twisted, rapture-esque limbo. Matthias reveals himself to be some kind of merciful undertaker, overseeing the survivors so that they can cling on to hope until their very last moments to join their loved ones. And it ends very bleakly, with Joel accepting that the fight is over and that Matthias was right. With the way things are going, it's truly better to just give up and join his loved ones wherever the sirens want him to go. This is great stuff. It's a well-executed subversion. A lot of it plays out through dialogue, so the action is very simple yet effective. And it's here where we finally learn about Joel's backstory and character dynamics, and it plays out very well. Almost devastatingly well. My big gripe with the ending, again, goes back to character. At the beginning of each chapter, we get snippets of what's later revealed to be Matthias's journal, detailing how the sirens spoke to him and compelled him to do what he does. I wish we could have learned, well, why him? Why he specifically was chosen to lead? Why he didn't go batshit insane like everyone else? I'd prefer to learn that over the origin of the sirens, which is also never explained. However, well done ending aside, what that means for you as a reader is that you have to get through 80% meh to get to the 20% wow. I truly wish the rest of the book was as strong as the final fifth or so, because a good story should grab you out of the gate and never let go. What this book told me is that Braden Cawthon definitely has potential and talent as a writer, but he needs to hone his craft so that the build-up to the punch can be just as gripping. And I'm curious to see if making a switch to more mature horror/thriller away from the young adult label would allow Braden's talent to fully become unleashed. I will admit I have been very clear that I got into adult horror at a rather young age, so my taste in writing has come to reflect that, like New York strip, so why would you ever choose ground beef, that kind of thing. But overall, this is a decent first effort for a first book, and I truly hope the best for Braden Cawthon and that he can come to find his voice and come out with something really impressive in the near future. I'd give it a 5.5 out of 10. If you're looking for a straightforward, accessible dystopian horror story and you want to support the Cawthons, then by all means check this out. Me personally, I would not go out of my way to stump for it. And that does it for this review. I will see you all next time.